Alrighty. So, what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to show you some of our work, and I will talk about how did we get around developing that, and what business case did we solve for that specific organization. So here is the first one. This is for a company that we did where they had a massive number of new managers coming and joining the organization. And these typically are mid-management people who have to take care of multiple variables uh, during their workday. So right from stakeholder management to their own team management to peer network management to making sure that the work keeps happening, so a lot of those things. And what was happening with this specific organization was that people were getting overwhelmed and they were quitting or not showing up or performing very, very poorly. And all this demotivations was there for everyone to see within the first 2 3 months of people joining or getting promoted as a manager. So the brief given to us was that the new managers get overwhelmed as they join the company with too many pressing situations from different sides. How to help managers, new and old, identify their natural styles and adopt new strategies. So this was the use case. This was the brief given to us. The solution that we developed, we thought on the lines of, okay, so if people get overwhelmed during the day and with all the happenings during the day, so how does that day look like? So we pretty much, me and my team, we worked with the client to, so to say, create a sketch of how a day in the life of looks like for this manager for whom we are creating this. So we pretty much simulated a day in the life of a manager with all the variables like teams, stakeholders, peers, created a full experience of a day in a manager's life and captured his natural style of dealing with situation and mapped his actions to competencies. The way it worked was as we simulated these day in the life of style of the manager. What we ultimately wanted to do was to be able to identify the natural style of that person, which in the language that the business and HR will understand, which is the language of competencies, and be able to create some kind of a contrast to say which competencies were displayed, demonstrated well, which weren't, and of the ones that got demonstrated, to what degree of proficiency were they demonstrated. So just capturing these three ideas with that. So I'll talk about the impact. So what we were able to do is, create a simulation, ran it across their mid management, 2000 odd people. And everyone had to take that simulation, short simulation. And what it would do is it would give a snapshot of, it would provide a real life experience of what it's going to be once you're a manager. And it will keep bringing in these variables, for you to disturb you from your work, and then you had to deal with it. And the way you dealt with it by choosing options, those options were mapped with different competencies. It would either add or take away from in a variable style from each of these competencies. With that understanding, we would be able to create a personalized report for everyone who would take that simulation. And the simulations was built in an intelligent way where the actions taken by a specific learner, the simulations will understand that, and based on the inputs, it will change the events and change the experience of the simulation from there on basis the input from the learners. So what I want to do is give you a showdown of how that looked like. So guys, just walking you through. This is the plus.
Welcome to this leadership simulation. I will be your guide throughout the experience. You are the new manager of the company. You have a team to manage, stakeholders to delight, and goals to achieve. This training will simulate a 4-week period. You'll be measured on the application of appropriate leadership aligned to your competencies. I will now walk you through your dashboard where you will be working from. Please click on the navigation tour when you are ready. This is the dashboard you'll be working from. This holds key information you
And I want to call out some of the points which, as learning designers, we have to keep in mind that, anything that you're building which is complex, and for sure, see, you're not going to feel it's complex because you're the one who's building it. But typically, once you show it to clients and do some user acceptance testing, you will realize that some of the things are not so intuitive, although they are from your view. But people in general who are just getting exposed to the site, these ideas, they don't find it that intuitive. So it's always a great idea to create a navigation tour for your application or the simulation that you are building, because then it irons out so many of those initial support questions that people post on the website, or call up people for, hey, I don't know what to do now, or I don't understand how this is, what am I to do here. So things like that do get ironed out to a big degree. So we are in the simulation piece now. So this part now really explains how your dashboard is going to look like, and what are you going to
will need to assess during your simulation. You'll be measured on these key metrics. Volume depicts the quantum of work allotted to you. Completed will show the work your team has done, and accuracy will show the correctness of your delivered jobs. Time progress slider will show your progress across 4 weeks. Here is the team you will manage. You'll be able to see their motivation levels and results they are able to deliver at the job at hand. When you click on the Action tab, you can engage in their key activities with them. When you click to manage their time, you'll see the tasks for your team members. You can rationalize their tasks. Here are your stakeholders that you'll be reporting to. You'll be able to see how they are currently feeling towards you. Here is your task panel. From here, you'll be able to manage all tasks. That is, delegate tasks to your team members, prioritize your tasks, and push back when required. Be mindful that all activity you perform will have impact on others and the overall ecosystem. This is the Events panel. Here you will see all events as they happen. Your simulation is starting. All the best.
So this is the first event. It says, hi Aman, first things first, let's meet with your team. So we say, okay. Now these are the team members that have been assigned to me. I click on each team member to get to know a little bit about them. So now the event panel says, hey, great job. You are well aware of the disk profiling that we use in the organization to better understand others. Now we will try to assign appropriate disk profile to each of the team members basis the brief that you've read about them. So I'm going to just randomly select certain profiles for each one of those. So after the disk profile has been assigned or identified, then I have to, the event panel says, hey, let's now select the leadership strategy for each of the team members. Now at this phase, we are using the situational leadership 2 model, in which basis the disk profile and basis the tenure of each person in the process, we are going to decide what kind of leadership strategy would each of these people need. So let's say Kunal, I can keep him in the coaching style of leadership. For Ravi, I can give him a supporting style. For Ajay, because he's a tenured team member, so I can keep him on delegating. And Rohini, who's still new, I'm going to keep her in directing style of leadership. Now, all the things that I'm doing here is going to have an impact on my week, because Rohini now, who I have assigned to the directing style of leadership, is likely to come back to me for my directions on certain tasks. Similarly, Kunal, who I have assigned coaching style of leadership, will expect certain coaching time from me. So basis all the inputs that I am giving here, my simulation will be impacted. So now it says, hey Aman, let's now get to meet your stakeholders and get to know them better. So here are my two stakeholders. He's Robert and he's Chris. So I have to be aware that both Robert and Chris are feeling differently towards me as of now, and I have to take care of that. So here is my first event of the day. This is Kunal, who's just come up to me and says that, hi, I'm not happy with how Ravi behaved recently in the last call. He overshadowed and took credit for the work that was not his. It happened in front of you and you were aware of the things that I had done, but you did not intervene. I have lost faith in this place. So, a great way to start the Monday morning. Here are some of the options that I can choose to take care of this situation. The first option is to diagnose root cause. Now, I can choose to do this. The moment I will go into this, what's going to happen is that I will need to spend some time in this diagnosis. I already see that my timing here left for me is 37 hours out of the 40 in this week. And if I choose to do this right away, then I will have 2 hours deducted from my available time. Or what I can do is I can tell Kunal to come back later. Now, Kunal here, as I can see that his motivation levels are already low. So if I ask Kunal to come back later, he might take offense to that because he's already at a low motivation level, and that might crop up as an event for me later where he could be looking at writing from the company. What I can also do is I can give constructive feedback to Ravi. Now, as per the situation, it seems that the manager is aware of what Ravi's doing was. If he chooses to do that, then what's going to happen is that although Ravi is in a good motivation level, so his motivation level will not get impacted. However, Kunal, who's on a low motivation level, his motivation level will improve. So what's really happening here is that as we have decided on these options, each of the option is going to impact all these variables between Ravi and Kunal, and that is going to have an impact on the simulation. Or I can give, or one of the other options is that I can give corrective feedback to Kunal. Now, Kunal is in a low motivation level. If I give corrective feedback to him with something like, Kunal, you're a grown-up guy, you can take care of your own things. Why don't you go and speak to Ravi and have this sorted out amongst yourself? So I can very well do that, but I have to now be aware that given that Kunal is not in a good motivation level, is that the option that I will choose? So for me personally, I would go with something like this where I give constructive feedback to Ravi. So as soon as I clicked on it, you saw that the mood level of Kunal, jumped up a little bit, but for Ravi, the mood level stayed constant. So as I take care of that, here is a mail in my inbox from Robert. Now, Robert, I know, is my stakeholder who's not feeling very well towards me. So here is what he says. Hi, Aman. It's been a bumper season for the client, and I need to take on some more work of 15 more hours. And my support is always there with you. So just reach out to me for anything. Now, what do? I have some options. First is that I take what Robert is giving me and I just add it to my task. The second is that I can push back and set expectations. Now, I know that I only have limited time and limited resources. So given that if my plate is full, then I might push back on some of the things that Robert is telling me to do, and I can set expectations. Or the third part which I can do is I can pacify and do partial work. So I can understand from Robert what it is that he wants me to do, and then pick up the pieces that are most important for him that needs to get done, and take care of those for now. So let me just select this one for now. So I see Robert's mood has increased just a little bit because I made that conversation with him. So here is another event, and this is the personal one. So, hi Aman, you promised to take your child for a piano recital at the amphitheater. What are you going to do? Now, this is actually simulating a real work-life day. So there are two options. One is that I can let my family know that I can't make it. If I choose to do that, what's going to happen is that it's going to impact my mood because I could not keep the word I gave to my own child and family, but it's going to let my time stay intact, available for work. Or I can, if I choose the other option, which is take your child, so my mood will, my motivation in life will increase a little bit, but I will lose on to 2 hours for completing this activity that I had earlier promised. So you can also manage your tasks. Please click on the manage task icon that you will see on the dashboard. Please click OK to reveal icon. So in this case, I will plan to take my child. So as soon as I clicked on it, you saw that my mood increased a little bit, and the time available for me to do the rest of the task has got decreased by 2 hours. Okay, here is another event, and this is Chris coming to me, and he says, hi Aman, there has been a mishap. The client has found gross irregularities in the way the process is being followed. We need to discuss this and identify the cause and put corrective action in place. Now I have two options to take care of this. One is that I can diagnose it with my team first, get to know, get up to speed with what has happened in this case and where are we, what did we do, and things like that. Second is I can do a call with the stakeholder to understand issues. Now this is a tricky one. What should be the right option for me? So if I diagnose with my team first, then it allows me to have information to feed to Chris when I have a discussion with him without going back to my team. So I would be more up to speed if I diagnose it first with my team. So let me just click on that. So I'm into a different situation now where the manager, which is the role that I am playing, and Kunal, one of the team members who was handling the issue, are now having a conversation basis the feedback received from the stakeholder. So it says what's been happening for Chris's deliveries. So Kunal says, sir, we've been doing our job. They changed the format last month and we made changes in our reports, and again they changed the format last week. We sent the report as per the earlier format, as we could not have changed the format before sending out the report. That may have caused the problem. So what is it that I can do now? I have to take care of that. So here are some options available for me. I can give corrective feedback to Kunal. So the corrective feedback could be on the lines of, Kunal, we knew that the new format has come in. We should have ideally communicated with the client that it's not in the format that was last updated. It is still in the earlier format. Is that going to be okay with you? So I could do, an option like that, or I can write a mail explaining this to Chris, that what had exactly happened. And the third option is I can get the information and get into a call with Chris. So with this information now with me, I can now decide to get into a call. But here, as the situation demands, I'm going to give corrective feedback to Kunal for not being able to do that communication with the client. Okay, here is another event. Your peer is moving out of the company and a farewell party is being organized and they need volunteers to set up the bash. Would you spare some hours to help it set up? Now, this is a tricky one again. What is it that you do? Do you save on to your time and invest that in work, or do you want to do something about it? So here are some options. It's an email that's come and hit my inbox. So I can choose to ignore. I can send an email to the outgoing colleague wishing him all the best, or I could volunteer. So for now, given the situation and the my situation with stakeholders and things not going well, this is what I may choose to do. Now all of this that I am doing is going to have an impact, because if I choose to just ignore this email and don't show up at the event, then my peers are going to look at me from that lens. And if I need any help from any of my peers, then that becomes difficult to get, because I am not seen by my action as a good comrade. So here we go. This is the end of week one skill report. So we've got the various skills or competencies listed here, and we've got the scores that each of my action has depicted or has added on to each of these competencies. So this gives me a very good dipstick as to how I am doing as a leader, and what more would I need to do or be careful of in my week two.
So this was a simulation that I showed you. Of course, I couldn't have run through the whole of it, but what I tried to show you was, so to say, we simulated the simple idea of creating or simulating a day in the life of. Use that principle to create a simulation, and not just play with one variable or stay focused on one discipline, but to create a multidisciplinary style environment in which things, when they come in, they don't ask if you are up for some leadership conversation and then they'll hit us. So things of any nature can come and hit us, and the learner is then required to manage that situation, managing all the variables, managing stakeholders, peers, your work and your teams. And then basis that management that person has done, gets a personalized skill report on how his competencies look like. So thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Aditi. I'm sure you liked it. It's the most funnest thing, the kind of things that we do, most fun thing for us to, develop and design. Okay, so I'll take on all the questions now. So we start off with Aditi's question, and she asked, okay, how did SME help building this simulation? Aditi, building such simulations is a very big undertaking. There are trained instructional designers and myself initially, who have to be at the client site and identify SMEs, which typically and new managers, combination of those. And we had to just play out the day for so many people, so many times, and just created an inventory of all things that can happen. It's a backbreaking task. That said, it's absolutely rewarding, because when people get a experience like that and they can use that for learning, then the feedback is tremendous. People love stuff like this. They come back and say, you know what, it looked like it was my day yesterday. So great anecdotal experiences we get. And for the leadership team that we worked for, the HR and training team, for them, what's now available is a slicing and dicing as per competencies demonstrated by their mid management. So if they want to look at, okay, this week we're going to work on helping and supporting your team, so let's identify all people who have scored the maximum in that area. Identify those, make them your ambassadors, create mentors out of them, and let's identify people who are at the bottom of that skill. So there you go. You want to make a red pair out of it. So we talked about red pair, Chinese technology for creating peer networks. You can create a red pair out of it. You want to identify that this is the area or this is the competency that most of my team members are just failing, or they're not able to score at all. So what is it that I can do to help people climb up a few steps in that specific skill and competency? So from a analytics input standpoint, the training team that we were working with, they got massive inputs to plan out the complete leadership journey basis the simulation.